We talked a little bit earlier about an industrial renaissance or an attempted renaissance in the US. That's going to create opportunities for smaller businesses that are either part of the manufacturing supply chains that get set up or they're providing services into those new supply chains. So that's one area. In addition to that as well, if you look at the Trump 1.0 administration, the annual growth rate in defense spending in the US was in the high or mid-single digits. Under the Biden administration, it's been in the low single digits. So we would expect a revisiting of a slightly higher pace of growth in defense spending. So that's going to benefit the industrials, the aerospace, the defense companies in the US. So those are a couple of examples that we're focusing on at the moment.
What about technology? There is Jensen Huang currently in Tokyo with his AI summit. Of course, everything AI is what we've been tracking closely. How does this play into your investment strategy?
Yes, well, we're paying quite close attention to some of the appointments that have been announced by the incoming Trump administration. So one specific example would be Marco Rubio, Senator Rubio, who is going to be appointed as Secretary of State. Now, some of the communications that he's given, speeches that he'd given in the past, indicate that one of the concerns that he has and that the new administration is likely to have is the use of high-end technologies, in particular the semiconductor space, for civil military fusion opportunities, so dual use purposes. So we're likely to see more restrictions, particularly on high value add, high-end technologies in the semiconductor space that the US imposes on businesses doing deals with China. So that's an area of focus. Now, what that means in terms of the semiconductors earnings cycle is a little bit of a grey area, because if companies anticipate that new sanctions will come in, then they will front load their orders now whilst they still can. So what we are likely to see is companies continuing to report in the very short term strong earnings, but perhaps signal reduced guidance for next year and beyond.
Earlier we were talking about, of course, the countries that would be impacted with all of these Trump policies. We were talking about the likes of Vietnam and Mexico, but I want to ask about Taiwan. This has a lot to do with the technology space. It also has a lot to do with the China politics.
Well, that's correct. If we look at the semiconductor space, it's obviously an important component of the Taiwanese equity markets. The reality is that this will crimp their future earnings potential if they're not able to as freely sell to Chinese semiconductor companies or Chinese entities as well. So it is likely to have, at the margin, a negative longer-term impact. But equally, there'll be other opportunities that surface as well. The Trump administration is likely to attempt to further integrate Taiwan into the US economy and other economies that are allies of the US as well. So there might be opportunities for sectors beyond the semiconductor and the technology space within Taiwan as well. So some potential rotation within portfolios that are focused on Taiwan is an observation that we're likely to have in the coming months.